Anyone who wishes to attend online or via phone, you can get the links from the agenda on the town website. In attendance I'd like to call the meeting to order. In attendance this evening, we have Fire Chief from my left to my right, Fire Chief Jeff Deering, DPW Director Rich Waldo, Peter Canine, Rick Chunfialona. I'm David Little. I don't know if Select Board Mark Matheson is going to be attending or not. OES Representative Kathy McNamara, Emily Miller, Assistant Town Manager Mark Reel will not be attending, and also we have Executive Assistant Laura St. John Dupuy. I don't see anybody online, and in the audience we have Special Project Coordinator Mike Salitro, and from Pomeroy Associates, Rick Pomeroy. So my first item on the agenda is public comment. Gail.
Good evening. Gail Breer, 43 Pond Road. I am the current vice chair of Orleans Elementary and the former chair. It has been 4 long years since the Orleans Elementary School Committee was approached by the previous town administrator to be part of a process of finding a positive way forward that would support a new fire rescue station on the site where Orleans Elementary School is. It has clearly been a challenge for everyone involved to see a path forward until now. I sincerely appreciate the efforts of the town of Orleans in pursuing all abutters to the fire rescue station's current site, with a special thank you to Dr. Monfett for considering this real estate transaction. In my opinion, this plan far outweighs anything previously considered, and it has my full support. It's an all-around win for the fire rescue station to be situated in the best location, directly on Eldridge Parkway. For the concerns that arose from the most recent feasibility study on the part of the Orleans School Committee, parents, and various community members. For the community need to enhance visibility and emergency response time, and for the taxpayers because the funding source is the stabilization fund, meaning no impact on taxes. It's now in your hands as the building committee to bring this project to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. So I guess I'm going to turn it over to Rick. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'd love to. Excuse me. Good afternoon. Richard Pomeroy from Pomeroy Associates, and we're really happy to be here this evening, and thank you so much for selecting our firm to conduct this work. We're really excited to get started. We understand you have an aggressive goal ahead of you, and we're on for the charge, and congratulations on the parcel. That looks to be imminent. I think it's mid-November it goes to town meeting. So that'll be great to roll this in and help us with some of the pinch points on the project. So I think it's a great asset, and can't wait to see what it does for the overall plan. We're really in the early stages, but the goal right now is to get an RFQ out on the street for designer services. And we had put together, we've gone through the draft with Michael, and we have that in draft form at this point. We're ready to get it out in the street. Town council is also involved with that review. We have a couple of tweaks that we'll make before it goes out, but most importantly would be determining a schedule. Our goal would be we're starting in a very difficult time of the year with the holidays. Our goal is to get this out on the street, immediately. And have a designer selected and awarded before the Christmas holiday, the Christmas break begins. So we put together a brief little schedule for you. I think everyone has a copy of it. Mm-hmm. Basically walking through, we would, if the committee agrees to move forward, we would have to get the Central Register notice out this Thursday. For it to be out on Thursday, it would air on the following Wednesday. So if we can get it in by the end of and I see no reason why we can't, it's just really pending your approval. Get the notice completed on Thursday. We'll get the legal ads and newspaper airings to come out the first week in November. The Central Register airing itself would be next Wednesday, November 5th, and we would schedule a briefing for 7 days after the following Wednesday, and look for submissions within 2.5 weeks of the publication, which is aggressive, but most of these firms that are in this business have their boilerplates already completed, and they're updating them with every submission. So it's basically tweaking it to make it more specific to your project. We'd like to think that we'll get good activity on this, and setting 2.5 weeks is not too cumbersome. If we can go with that schedule, we'd like to. That's a Friday, delivery on a Friday. We can be down here, sort through those. Whoever the reviewing group is going to be, whether it be the entire committee or select few, we would have the packages ready for pickup or electronic delivery to folks so that they could begin reviewing them immediately. Weekend work, we love it. We'd like to have our short list developed by Tuesday, December 2nd. So we have the Thanksgiving holiday in between when the RFPs are delivered, and we'd have a meeting to review and shortlist on December 2nd, and interviews could be conducted very quickly thereafter. I was shooting for Friday, but it's really up to the committee, December 12th, with the hopes that we can get someone, under award within a week of that. What we do a lot of times in our RFQs is we will put a date of interviews right in the RFQs. So the design firms, when they're paying attention to that, if they think that they have an opportunity here, they'll put that in their schedule right off the bat. I know we do that, even though we know whether or not we've been selected or not. But letting them know when we are doing our interviews will allow us not to give too much lead time for the interviews. So as soon as they're selected, we'll call them up and say, you're on, see you at 3 o'clock. So I think if we can follow this schedule, we'll be having someone on board before Christmas.
That's great. Any questions?
So this is a qualifications-based award?
Yes, I'm sorry, I should have gone through that a little bit better. Per the procurement guidelines, we can't ask for a proposal, cost proposal from the firms. They have to provide us their qualifications. We will have a ranking scenario that we'll run through with you and make the committee part of the process, and the packages will be reviewed and ranked. And there, a lot of times what we like to do in our RFQs is, depending upon the community, we can make interviews optional. A lot of times RFQs will say we will interview 3 candidates, but the state procurement laws does not require an interview if you choose not to do one. So if you put optional in the RFQ, that gives you the opportunity to go through the packages and say, one firm or another has risen to the top, and we really see no reason to interview. So let's just move forward. It's a way to streamline things, or we can make it. We can just indicate in the RFQ that we're going to interview, and if that's the case, then you have to conduct interviews. So, and you'll go through the qualifications. Who is the most qualified? The ranking committee will rank them, not top qualifications, second and third, and down, and then we'll set to negotiate with the top-ranked firm. If a negotiation cannot be completed, the town has to pass on that firm and go to the second-ranked firm and go through the process of negotiation again. You can't, if you pass on the first firm, you can't go back to them. So I've never seen anybody not be able to negotiate a contract that's suitable for both parties, but it gives the community that opportunity to say, we ranked you first, but we feel that your fees are too exorbitant for us and are not realistic, and we're going to move on. So it's a 2-step process. Who's the most qualified? 1, 2, 3, and then you negotiate the fee.
So given your background, you suspect, you already know who many of the top applicants might be?
Oh, I don't, I would never, I would never assume who the top applicant would be,
Well,
because,
just, I mean, or let me rephrase it, suspect you might know most of the applicants? Let me
yes,
put
that's
it that
correct.
way.
Yeah, that's a better way to, that's a better way for me to commit to
Yes.
that.
So, that was
Yeah,
just,
there's a few firms that generally provide services for public safety facilities, and
Okay.
probably 5 or 6 of them that will submit. You'll have a couple outliers as well, but yes.
Hi, I'm Emily Miller. I was just wondering, you have interviews on Friday, December 12th, and then presumably you're not negotiating on the weekend. The award is Friday, December 19th. Is that typical? And I mean, I know you've done this a lot. Is that typical to be able to negotiate it that fast?
I would say so. My goal would be if we interview on Friday, I'd like to meet with the reviewers afterwards and come up with a selection at that point. And I'd like to be able to call that firm that evening and say, look, you've been chosen, I need you to put together a fee proposal and get it to us first part of next week. This schedule will be put in the RFQ as well, so everyone knows, how aggressive we're looking at this.
And so you, as the OPM, you're negotiating with them, but then presumably it has to go through the town, or is that all together? How does that work?
We negotiate with the town, assist. We can never work in an envelope or in a vacuum. So we will work with Michael and who you choose to negotiate. And then there will be, a contract. The basis contract will be in the RFQ, so all of the terms will be in there. The good firms will have read all of that, and they'll know exactly what they can sign, what they can't sign, what they may have concerns with. I'm overly optimistic because it is aggressive, but at the same time, I'd rather push to see this done. Gives us a little bit of buffer. Goal is to be on board, before Christmas, so it gives us a little bit of time if we have to go back and forth.
Yep.
I have a question. Part of our charge, quote unquote, is the building committee will work to propose a net zero emissions facility designed to the select board that incorporates all available technologies. The net zero thing bothers me because I think there's a lot involved here. I've never been involved with a net zero commercial project, but my understanding is basically the bottom line is we have to generate on-site or have off-site agreements to produce all our power for that facility. I also, a quick look on the net, came up with there were 2 net zero fire stations in the last few years in Massachusetts. They seem to be adding 20 to 25% more to that, and it's a pretty involved program. My understanding, it's a 15-year commitment, and it goes with the building. And very simply, it's not necessary at this point for a fire station. I would like to revisit that with the selectmen. I think we could go the route of getting rid of the net zero emissions language in the charge. There are plenty of programs I think we could apply here. There's LED things and solar ready and all kinds of other things that we could explore here. The bottom line here would be, I think we would have that option if we wanted to get into it. But I think net zero is a huge thing to commit to, and I'd like to have your feeling on that.
Certainly. I think what we will do is make sure we incorporate into the RFQ that the design firms have the qualifications to accomplish that net zero facility. During the process, the firms will be responsible providing us a life cycle cost analysis on the mechanical systems that will identify different options for the community on the operational systems. And one of those would be getting as close to net zero as possible. But you'll realize the cost that is involved with getting, as you'd mentioned, to that net zero. And part of the life cycle cost analysis would be the cost-benefit analysis. So you look at how much am I going to have to spend to get to a net zero or close to a net zero as compared to what's a middle-of-the-road system, less upfront cost, but gives me, reasonable return on my investment.
Does this program, is it supported by any kind of funding, government funding, or do we get anything back? I mean, other than,
No, it's not at this time.
Okay.
For schools, they have the LEED buildings, and, that's been very successful for the MSBA because they have, within their grant process, they give you, the schools and libraries, they give them more of a benefit as far as the grant funds towards the construction of that, but there's no program for public safety facilities or other municipal facilities at this time.
If I could just quickly, with the discussion of a specialized energy code coming up in next month's town meeting, there is funding through grants that are tied through that might be available for a project like this. In some discussions with Mark, unfortunately, it's not with the committee tonight, but I can speak more in detail about what type of funding might be available for a project like this. So I don't know if it makes sense to take that out of the charge or to explore that right now, but I think that can be something we discuss further, especially if the specialized energy code does pass next month.
Rich?
So looking at the schedule, it doesn't seem like this committee is going to have much of a chance to review the RFQ. Is that your intention here?
Yeah, I've looked at a week, because we have Thanksgiving as well.
No, the RFQ.
Yeah, but the RFQ
Oh,
is
to
going
review
be,
the RFQ.
so we're not going to be able to have a chance to review that. So we're not going to be able to have a chance to review the criteria matrix.
We could certainly, you can certainly have a copy of it and review it, and we'll take any comments and we can have discussions on it. It doesn't have to go public until a week from this coming Wednesday. So we can get that to you and look for comments on it. It's the same RFQ that was used in the last go-around
Okay.
4 years ago.
But still, criteria matrix the same? I would think what we're going to evaluate them on is something, we're looking for a specific qualification based. Are we looking for experience in fire stations? Are we looking for experience in Cape Cod? So those are some of the things I think, the committee probably should have some sort of weigh-in on that. I think at the end of the day, we're trying to move this thing to an RFQ, so I'm not saying that that's what we need, but I want like a sense of understanding of how the criteria matrix was developed, so we know what we're going to be evaluating when we get these submissions in.
Sure. That's perfect. We can get that around to everyone, and we can field any questions or comments you have. We have a week and a half to accomplish that.
Doesn't it have to be public? Doesn't any discussion have to be public, or is that not right?
Yeah, we can't communicate. You could send me your comments, and we could incorporate it. And if you'd like, we could schedule another meeting to go over it publicly.
Can we back up to
So
the schedule, because I'm just curious, right, like, thinking way out to when this has to get voted on, right? We determine the value of whatever is designed, right? And then backing it up to today, right? So I had a separate question about if in the RFQ, you put some form of rough schedule for the design deliverables. This way, when individuals are deciding whether or not, firms are deciding whether or not they can respond to this, whether they have the horsepower to do it is a big component. And then when you ultimately negotiate the value of their contract, that schedule is going to be important as well. But we're looking at this, which is aggressive, but if it's not needed, because the date of whatever meeting whenever that's gonna be, there's plenty of time to get the design in, then that could alter this. But if that date, when that meeting is aggressive as well, then this is needed. So I don't want to slow anything down if it's going to make it so that when we go and get the final vote, we don't have a substantial, a good enough, let's say, set of drawings where we could put together an independent cost estimate and get a real number approved by the town, right? So before we start to look through all this, maybe we should go over with Rick what he thinks about the duration that the design has to take place in, and if this aggressive procurement schedule is warranted.
So I guess where he's headed is we're looking at a town meeting the second week in May. Is that unrealistic?
It will be.
So I think that's the lion in the room.
This was. I appreciate the question, because, you know, we're nervous about that too, and we don't want to,
And you're gonna,
oh, even individually? Okay.
Well, I was, no, but we could, but for instance, a couple of, what I was going to suggest is that there is no reason that Rich, or Rick, for instance, who is more familiar with this process, couldn't email to Rick portions of the criteria that you're concerned about being in the RFQ. Just say, you know, we would like to see something like that. That's not a violation of the open meeting law. Just, I don't think for instance, I'm not going to have an opinion about what should or shouldn't be in the RFQ. So you see where I'm headed?
Yeah, absolutely.
I see no reason why, just like he brought up today, a couple of items that if you just request comments from the board, we can send you comments that we would hope would be addressed in the RFQ. If that makes sense?
I think it just might be cleaner. I don't know if we want to have any perception of anything not being done in accordance with the most open, transparent.
Well, I know, Lynn's nodding her head behind you, so
So, I mean, with the timeline we've laid out, it would be possible just to get the materials to the full committee this week in a lead-up of a subsequent meeting. So next Monday, just for example, if we wanted to do that, collect any comments
Okay, well
Monday,
then,
and then
then
incorporate.
the onus is on us to get the materials and be ready to comment on them a week from today.
I think at the end of the day, I don't want to blow up the schedule because, you know, fire station project, this is not the first one in Massachusetts. I think criteria matrix are developed in routine one. So a sense of assurance of where these, you know, criteria were developed for previous project, where were they developed, the standards, you know, some indication there. But I think to Rick's questions a little bit is the reason why we are trying to expedite this, at least the way that I see it, is so we can bring a dollar value to town meeting for construction based on whether it be schematic design or whether we're in design development based on a square footage price. So, you know, to answer his question, I mean, do we think that we could be at a point for, you know, schematic design, entering design development by the time of May where, well, let's just say April, where we could put out a number out there? Because if we're not going to make the Maytown meeting, then the question is, then why aren't we taking an extra week to review the RFQ? So I think if we can answer his question, and then we back up that way.
I hear you loud and clear, and I really appreciate the question, because we've been getting nervous over the schedule. Our charge was to deliver a product for annual town meeting, and you know, as we've gone through the process, we are concerned with that. It is doable. It could be a race to the finish line, This contemplated, this is what our answer to the RFQ was back in September. We contemplated being underway in, with the procurement right around this time, about a week or two earlier. And that was a stretch as to whether or not we'd be ready. You can see our timelines here, and we've worked it, we've worked through it to see what we would need to get in front of the town, because you can't just bring it to the town meeting floor. You've got to do your public presentations, you have to have your informational forums, your warrant has to be set. So there's no reason, if you want to pump the brakes, I completely understand if you feel that we're rushing it, but it will be a stretch to be ready for a Springtown meeting with a schematic design and a schematic design estimate. We see communities go to town meeting with feasibility studies. We see them with schematic design estimates. We see them with estimates midway through design. And we've seen communities like what Orleans did for the police station went to town meeting with a bid in hand. So they funded the total design cost with bid in hand. But it's certainly worth discussing with the committee.
So, the time allotted for site investigations and schematic design, that seems light to me.
Pardon me?
It seems light. You have 2.5 months for site investigations and schematic design.
Pretty aggressive.
That's really aggressive.
I don't disagree with you. Again, it was, part of our charge was to have something for annual town meeting. So what we're putting together for you is, what we put together for you was a schedule to accomplish that. It would mean that all the firms are extremely diligent, and that we would be meeting with the committee and any end users on a very regular basis. It's a lot of work to be ready for that, but it is doable, but it's a tight time frame.
And just to understand, in this schedule that you have, so we're going to town meeting in this version with just a schematic estimate, not a full
Correct.
design?
Yeah, not a full design, no.
Okay, so,
I don't like
What is
that.
the budget, yeah, but what is the budget that we have in hand right now for design? Do we have the money to pay for a full design?
We have 4.5 million, which includes Pomeroy.
So you may be better served to spend more time, go to town meeting with a full design or bid in hand, where you have, when you're submitting a budget with a schematic design, you're loaded with contingencies, because there's a lot of unknowns. And so you're carrying values for those unknowns.
There was recently an article in the paper in a neighboring town on Cape Cod that they did that, and it came back in significantly higher than the schematic design.
I think there's some risk there, but, I mean, I think it's one of two ways to go. You go with the bid in hand, or you go with your best estimate available, and then if you have to come back for supplemental funding, you do. Sometimes those are hard to get through town meeting, supplemental funding, but let me ask you, because I don't want to hang up on the criteria matrix. I think we can work with that. Can you tell me if there's a site visit in the RFQ?
There would be a briefing, yep.
There will be a briefing and on-site. Do you feel that 2.5 weeks is enough time to attract a designer with an RFQ to be able to put together a comprehensive package?
It depending upon people's schedules and what their workload is. Some firms that may have some opportunity and some availability, and they see this fitting into their schedule, would not feel uncomfortable with submitting something in 2.5 weeks. Other firms who would just be throwing their hat in the ring with the hopes may not.
Do we have a milestone where we expect them to be in April or May of 2026 as part of the RFQ? Do we let them know the aggressive schedule?
That would be
explicitly?
built into the RFQ, yes. You have to make everyone completely aware of what your goals are.
Okay.
We have two designers that are I'm not gonna say guaranteed, but I mean, Castle Booze was involved with this, right? And then there was another firm involved with this already. So they're probably just circling their wagons, waiting for
Well-
this to drop.
Given the site constraints, what was previously designed is not going to work here.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they've already invested some time and money in it, right? So they're probably looking at it as if they have an advantage with their qualifications already because they already have some knowledge in regards to what we're looking for, right? They've already have some
Or-
relationships
or-
here, so.
Or their schedule might not allow it. You know, that's,
Or perhaps they-
I'm of the mindset that the select board is going to want us to bring a number to town meeting that we can vote on at town meeting to get approved and not have to come back at a later date to revise it.
And I agree, and I think that the expectation is that, you know, based on the meetings that I've been listening to, the expectation is we're gonna get
And
there.
I don't think this is feasible.
But I think at the end of the day, we know that a complete construction-ready document is not going to be ready by May. I mean, we'll be lucky if we get through the design development by May, so.
You would never even reach design development. It would just be schematic design.
And so,
Yeah.
to hit that milestone, there's got to be some expectation. If that's the charge that they're going to give us, they have to understand there's some expectation that we're going to give that best estimate to them. But until we get a bid in hand, we're not going to know what that actual number is.
And the bottom line is we'd be adding 6 months, and what does 6 months add to the cost of the project? I know, I'm looking at you, Rick. What does 6 months add to the cost
Well, I
of the
mean,
project?
there's.
According to the
volatility.
campus feasibility study, a little north of $1 million every 6 months that this gets delayed. So that's what we're
Yeah,
looking
there's-
at.
there's a
So
lot
I
of
don't know if this
volatility right
decision
now
needs to be
with
made
materials.
tonight, that this schedule is too aggressive. If it seems that it's too aggressive or we don't have the results that we are in need of before May, we can elongate it then. I don't know that pointing out all the tightness of the timeline tonight is going to be, you know, we can say, yes, it's going to be difficult. I think it's acknowledged that we are about 2 weeks behind where we had hoped to be here with Rick. So it is a tight timeline. It's done so with the idea that if there's a chance to make the May figure, we'll be there. And if not, I think at a later date, we can say, we are not going to make the May deadline, and here's why. But I don't know that it makes sense to punt on it tonight.
I think we were just told we're not going to make the May deadline, weren't we? I just have
We're
a
talking about
question.
schematics.
Well, I don't think we're elongating, or we're pushing the project forward 6 months. I think we're voting on it earlier than we would, right? Like, we're not actually making the project take longer. And purchasing things, et cetera,
Well,
et cetera. I mean, I'm worried about trying to bring something to town meeting that's like a schematic. People are not going to be,
It's a good point. We're not delaying the project 6 months. We're
No.
just choosing to not put a
And they'll
number
be
in
bringing
front
up
of it
what
earlier.
recently happened in
Yeah.
Provincetown. You know, they don't want to have happen in Orleans.
and also, the one thing that occurred to me, isn't that dentist in the office till summer 2027 anyway? So we're not really,
Given 18 months, was it?
Yes.
it's 2027, so,
But there's
There has
still
to be a
lot-
limited amount
There's still
that-
a lot that can be done.
right. I don't know where that leaves us.
Mr. Chairman, I think I have a question for Mike. Is our charge part of the RFQ
Yes, it's integrated into the RFQ,
as it is?
as is.
Okay.
We have minimum qualifications in the RFQ?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this? We'll populate the information with the schedule and get everybody a draft RFQ. And then we can schedule a meeting for next week to go over it publicly and make a decision at that time. We can notify the Central Register this week, and then I can call them up and cancel the airing before Wednesday. It's done, it's something that's possible if the committee decides to pump the brakes on this. I know this is a lot, and you want to make the right decisions. I think a very good point was that if you didn't go to annual town meeting in May, but you continue with your design, and you're bringing a more refined design to, do you have a fall special usually? Or,
Yes.
and you continued with your design, and you brought something to fall, you haven't slowed the process down. What you're doing is providing more detailed information in the fall than you would have in the spring. And, I feel that Orleans sort of set the bar with the police station project, in the sense that the really only good number is your bid number. So, going with bid in hand isn't always an option. The designer would not be able to have a bid in hand by fall, but could have very strong construction estimates by that time.
I like that idea. It would give the select board an opportunity to listen to this meeting, and perhaps comment to us. I'm open for comments or
I
suggestions.
just want to kind of ask questions about the central register notice. I know if that goes in on Thursday, the 30th, it won't show up until Wednesday, the 5th. If we meet on Monday, the 3rd, and we have revisions, can that notice be updated in the central register so when it does get aired, it's the updated version? Meaning, if we meet on Monday, can we still review that? And I can't remember if you can do that or not.
The RFQ document is not public in the notice, and the notice is very basic. It has performance
It
deadlines.
sends you to basically the town website. So we could do that. I mean, the only thing would be, and the same thing would be with the newspaper airing, the posting. That would just be a posting directing people where to go for the RFQ document, same thing as the central register. So we could meet next Monday, review the RFQ documents, get you any comments we have next Monday, and still be able to, publish this by Wednesday.
Correct.
I think if everyone's available next Monday,
Oh, we've had weeks off.
Exactly.
Whether or not we'll meet, whether people can make it or not. We'll have a quorum, I have no doubt.
I got Monday blocked off for next little bit, for sure.
Yeah, we have Mondays blocked off for 5 years.
Great. Just to let you know, I cannot personally be here next Wednesday, but my partner, Taylor
Monday.
McDonald, can be here. And
Monday.
he's just as detailed and informed about this as I am, so.
Who will be our primary person represented from Pomeroy? Will it be you or Taylor?
It'll be me.
You. Great, thank you.
You go by Rick or Richard?
Rick.
Thank you. I don't think we really need to discuss that much more with respect to the RFQ at this point. I think we've kind of, and I'm going to reach out to the select board secretary and make sure they see this, they know what's going on, and see that we get feedback from them.
Yeah, I think if we
You
can,
you on board with that, Mike?
Yeah, I think it's important that the select board knows the discussion that's taking place at this committee. I think they're plugged in as is, but
Well, I know, I just,
I think if we stick to the schedule as best as we can, and at the end of the day, as Mike said, we're not there, we don't have the confidence to go into May, we can make that adjustment at that point. But let's get a designer on board, let's get them, working, let's get them at these meetings so we can start putting together some schematics, review the schematics, get your input, get our input, and start that development phase.
Perfect.
sounds good. Peter?
Little guidance. Back to my concern about adjusting the charge. Is that, would the committee entertain a motion, or is this something that we want to put back to the select board? My concern would be that we deal with the net emissions thing early on. I mean, if it's part of our charge, it's going to be in the RFQ, and I think it would be, now would be the time to take care of that, but I'm looking for some guidance.
I just have some reservations of us, at such an early point in this phase, saying we can't do it without even getting any sort of designer on board to really support what we're doing. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I know this town works on sustainability efforts, and they work on the green infrastructure best we can, and I just think it might be a little premature to say we can't do it without getting a designer on.
I think one of the issues, I think it's going to be difficult to find out what that number is, what that premium is. And this taxpayer is going to want to know what that premium number is before we get too far down the process here.
Well, I agree. I agree with everything you said, but I'm more concerned about the RFQ right now, in the next week, and what happens, and then perhaps right after that, we can,
What everybody thinks is the proper procedure here,
I think that'll be one of our first questions we'll ask the designer is what kind of premium are we setting? What kind of bar are we setting early with that charge? And maybe they can answer some, give us some context and concrete answers to that, where we can make a decision at that point.
I mean, we need some room here. We don't need more restrictions or programs to get into that.
but is that going to make a difference in what we're talking about right now? I don't think so.
Peter, is your concern that that the charge in the RFQ says net zero?
Yeah, our charge says it's net zero.
You're right, so
You know, it's not it's got to be.
right.
And yet, I think we can remove net zero and not take net zero off the table, but it leaves us a lot of options here and removes a pretty large restriction.
Couldn't we leave it up to the public, right? So as it's being designed, we ask the designer to kind of put the elements of the design that would take us to this net zero in an ad alternate.
Yeah.
Right, so that when we go and get the bids from the contractor, these are ad alternate prices. And then when we propose this for a vote, it's the value that they agree. If they're willing to pay for the ad alternates to get us to net zero, this way it's not our decision, it's the public's decision whether or not they want it.
Right.
Because it's a cost.
As long as that comes out there,
Yeah.
then I just don't want to get this so far down the road that we were committed to this. And, this isn't 5% or anything. We're talking about a major program here.
Well, maybe we need to just make sure that in the RFQ, it says something like, I don't know what it says right now, but it says something like, a firm with the, full knowledge of and capability to build a net zero facility.
Yeah.
That can still be our charge, and if we can't do it, we can't do it, but that we want a firm that could do it, but also knows,
Well, as long as we don't lose the option here, that would be my only concern.
Rich?
So do you guys feel like the RFQ's in enough of a spot where it could be sent to us, so we can start reviewing it, so we can make comment on Monday?
Yes, I'm going to add in the dates, going to add in the net zero conversation, and make sure, just cross some Ts, dot some Is, and we'll get it over to you tomorrow.
Great.
Oh, we'll send it to Michael, he'll send it to.
Let me just speak on the dates real quick. Rick, could you or Mike speak to the briefing and what that'll entail?
It'll be very similar to the OPM briefing, just giving the designers an opportunity to come and look at the existing operations, so that they're not showing up one-off and interrupting your day. We'll get everybody there at one time, so very, very simple.
Could I politely ask that not be on the 12th? Another day that week would be much better for me.
Sure. You just let us know what works,
13th or just the 12th is a non-starter for me right now.
Okay.
Happy to, want everybody to come see it, but I want to be consistent with that.
Yep, that's perfect. We'll make it the 13th.
Are we missing anything?
I don't think so.
So Laura, is this room available at 5:15 next week?
Thank you.
So, We've got the room booked for 5:15 next week. Any other comments before we adjourn?
Know if it's the appropriate now. I'm just trying to get a sense from you as our OPM, what we should be focusing on now. While that RFQ is out, being published, that process is happening, that's going to take a month, month and a half. Are there things that we should be considering in the meantime that we should be working on? Some things that have come up as, additional site evaluation, soil borings. Do we just let that sit and lay and let the designer work that out? Anything to help us as we get into the winter months, something that we might be able to do now that might help us. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but, if you could think about that for next week of things that we can start taking initiative on now or decide as a group now that might be able to move this process a little further and faster.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. We have seen pre-analysis completed before designers are on board or in parallel with it. My biggest concern is that we want to make sure that we're spending your money wisely and that the geotechnical, in particular, the borings have to be within the building footprint and the perimeter of the building. And if we were to conduct it where we think the building's going to go and then that changes, we would be doing more soil borings, and it gets expensive. And then the soils analysis and perk testing and things like that, we generally want to coordinate that with where the storm management system will go so that we know exactly what we're looking at. But a survey would be very, very beneficial for the new parcel. And we'll start thinking about some of the legalese that would be necessary for combining the lots and things like that. But advancing some of the engineering aspects of it before we know what our design is could cause us to spend more money down the road.
Okay. Have you had a chance to review the space needs from Castle Booze back in 2022?
I have not personally, no.
Okay. So I think one of the things we'd like to do is just, as our OPM, be able to review those space needs, their comments, and be able to, if you have any questions of what they recommended or what they don't recommend, just to be able to, be able to discuss that with the fire chief and this committee beforehand. So when we go into the designer process, we're one step ahead in terms of what we need, what we don't need, what the chief's looking for, what's absolutely critical, what's not, and would have a better sense of that.
Well, the initial space needs, as you mentioned, was by KVA, but I'm assuming that Gentry, or, excuse me, not Gentry, Ted and his firm had reviewed that or refreshed it and updated it. So I'd probably be looking at the more recent study.
Great.
And we'll check with the chief because, operations change every day in one way or another. So there may be, that would be part of the responsibility of whether it be the Gallant Group or another firm that comes on board. They would have to do a refresh of every space and every component of it to make sure that it still works.
Okay.
And Rich, given our site constraints, that building, conceptual building that was put in that study is not going to work.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons that I think we're really light on the site investigation and schematic design at 2.5 months. I think that's really pushing it. I have a background in this, and
We have this is an entirely different site now, based on the fact that,
we still have a lot of moving parts.
yeah.
And that previous study isn't going to help that much. It gives us an idea of everything, the green, yellow, and red, and what's needed and what, but we're not going to be putting a big rectangle anywhere. We're starting from scratch.
I agree, but I do want to be able to hand off to the designer very clear instructions of what the department's looking for, what they've been through, what the process they've been through, and what the changes are since 2021, which I think is the first study that was done. So I think a lot has changed, but it would be nice to be able to hand off exactly what we're looking for to them.
I've been spending a lot of time looking into it. I'm a I have a background in municipal planning and design, and there's a lot to be done. I got to be honest here. That's why I'm very concerned about the schedule. But that being said, I think what we planned for meeting a week from now is all we can do for the time being.
Can I just ask one more comment, or ask a question/comment about the schedule? Obviously, very aggressive before Christmas, December 19th. I just would like to put it out there that I don't think it makes sense to like crunch this part of the schedule at the cost of not getting what we need, like what you're saying, Rich. So let's like, and especially if it's, unrealistic that we're not gonna be voting on a real number in May. As I think Rick was saying before, like, if extending this to get the better designer or to give more people a chance to make a, plea for it is gonna take a few more weeks, then it seems like that makes a lot of sense at this point. I guess that's a question.
It's a very refreshing thought. I
agree.
We've been concerned, as a group, we've been concerned. And at the risk of losing a very good candidate because they feel it's too aggressive of a schedule, is always an opportunity for that to happen too. So let's get the RFQ in your hands. We'll go through that, and let's plan on making a decision next week as to whether or not, perhaps what we could do is we could show you the aggressive schedule as to how we're going to meet the annual town meeting and whether or not it's actually doable or not, and a more relaxed schedule that would show us
I
something.
think that would be great.
Yeah,
I think that would be fantastic.
yeah, okay.
Good.
Any other comments? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.